What is going on, YouTube people? Today we got 3 for the price of 1. PSA specials, gem rate data for the big boys, and gem rate data for the little guys. So let's not waste any time and just go ahead and dive right in. Recording this on July 1st, PSA has dropped their new specials, and they are a little meh, depending on what you're into. Now, the big thing here to me is the vintage grading special. They have not done much in the way of vintage grading specials in quite a while. $16 a card, $300 or less declared value. Estimated turnaround time, 70 business days. So they are putting on a little extra lead time on that one. Vintage does tend to take them longer. So I would not expect this back in that quick, month to month and a half that a lot of people have been seeing with PSA orders recently. This one might take a little bit longer, but they do throw a bone at the vintage folks. And for this, what they're classifying as vintage, 1956 to 1979, 10 card minimum. On the modern side, we have a football special, 10 card minimum, 1990 to present. $16 a card, $300 or less declared value. Pretty much right about where they have been for most of these modern / ultra modern specials. They seem to like to flirt with that $16 mark. Every once in a while they'll dip below that, but that basically seems to be about their floor, at least with specials. They also roll over the Pokemon special, $14, $200 or less. They have some one-piece specials for higher tiers and a fun code grading special. Now, I am not surprised that they did not go super crazy with specials. Remember, this month is the National, which they will be doing on-site grading at, which means they have to pick up a bulk of their operation, move it across the country, set it up in Cleveland for a week, tear it all back down again, and take it all back. That is quite the undertaking, and we'll have a ton of people on site. And then 2 weeks later, we have Fanatics Fest. Now, I don't know what their plans are yet for Fanatics Fest. They could probably cheat that one a little bit because Fanatics Fest is basically across the river from their New Jersey location. So they don't have to bring the equipment. They could just run the stuff back to the Jersey office to process. But regardless, they have some busy things coming up. So I'm not surprised that they didn't want a bunch of stuff coming in for some crazy special when they have the National upcoming. So those are your PSA specials. Nothing here is grabbing me. I don't really have any football to grade. I have mostly baseball laying around, especially with Topps Chrome coming. So for me, if I end up ripping some Topps Chrome baseball to combine with what I already have, I may end up just sitting back and waiting to see what July brings. It'll just be a wait and see game for me. So those are your current July specials. Let's go ahead and switch over to gem rate data for the big boys. Basically, everyone dropped about 10 to 15% outside of CGC. PSA down 15%, SGC down 15%, Beckett down 11%, CGC down 3%. Now, one thing to note, there were a couple less business days in the month of June. I believe what Gemrate told me was there was about almost exactly, I think it was like 14% less business days in June. So that might accommodate for some of that drop, especially when you consider that it's basically about the same across the board, which essentially means grading stayed flat relatively for the month of June. I know SGC is officially through their backlog. The back half of this month, I have seen people's orders turning around super, super quick. The front half of the month, I think they still had a little bit of a one, but the back half of the month, it seems like they have completely caught up. Now, they are not doing on-site grading at the National. That's one thing to note. The July numbers might also be a little wonky because you have all these companies picking up and moving operations for a week. That will probably hit them a little bit, except for SGC, because they are only doing take-home submissions. Scrolling through the old data here, on the sports card side of things, a little bit more aggressive drops. Once again, SGC and PSA, that's standard about 15%, which we're attributing to the less business days. Beckett, though, with a much larger drop than that, 28%. and CGC with a 35% drop. Only 22,000 sports cards out of Beckett. Man, oh man, have the mighty fallen. On the TCG side of things, once again, that same 15% number for PSA, which adds up. CGC up slightly, Beckett up slightly, SGC down a little bit more aggressively in that space. Do keep in mind with these SGC numbers, they did run that top special this month. Remember, they rolled out that new pricing special, and with them basically back to virtually no backlog, that is with that special running, they basically stayed on par with where they had been at. So even with the special, it didn't do too much to absolutely juice the numbers up. That's pretty much it for the big boys. Let's take a quick look at the little guys. And there's some weird stuff going on over here. Arena Club 8600. Once again, I have no idea who actually uses Arena Club besides themselves for generating slabs for their own repack. HGA 650 cards. They were 500 in April, 800 in May, back to 650 in June. I just don't know how this company hangs around. Those are dreadful numbers. I'll be curious to see if they have any presence at all at the National. That'll be something worth keeping an eye on, given the amount of cards that they are pumping out on a monthly basis. Now, the one to talk about, the tag bots. Get your Magneto helmets ready because here they come. Tag did 29,000 in June, which is a huge number. I think that's their largest number since Gemrate and I have been tracking this. Yes. Previously, their high to that was around 18,000 back in February. So a massive jump up here in numbers. Now, the weird part is, and this has been a weird thing for a while, out of that 29,000, 25,000 of it was Pokemon. And this is a trend that we have seen quite a few times over the last 6 months, basically since the beginning of the year, is when things went a little oddball with this. You could see the end of the year, Tag was doing about 4,000 to 5,000, 6,000 cards a month, fairly consistently. January, it jumps way up with 13,000 of it being Pokemon. So they were still around that same number-ish. February, same thing. 18,000, but 13,000 in Pokemon. March, it was more evenly distributed. They didn't have a huge Pokemon number. April, back to 12,000 Pokemon. May, 11,000 Pokemon. So a huge percentage of their stuff is Pokemon. And then June, this just came out of absolute nowhere. 29,000 total with 25K in Pokemon. Now, what I do not understand is, and I will continue to beat this horse to death, where the hell are these cards going? Clearly, they are either prioritizing Pokemon and pushing other stuff to the side, or the other stuff is just not there. The reason why I keep questioning where this stuff is going is because it is not showing up on the secondary market. And when you're talking about numbers this large, I get it. You could say, oh, well, it's collectors sending their stuff in, and maybe they actually want to hold on to the card. And that very well could be some of the explanation for it. But when you look at those numbers, just since the beginning of the year, they've graded about 70,000 in Pokemon. We got 25K here, roughly. Add that on, that's 36K. That's 48K. Rolling back to here, that's 61K. And then 74K since January, roughly. And it's probably actually a little higher than that because we don't have March's number broken out here. But basically 70 to 80,000. We'll just call it a straight 75,000. Now, when you go over to eBay, this is where things fall apart for me. So they've graded about 70,000 Pokemon since the beginning of the year, or 75,000. A bulk of that was this month, so maybe that hasn't hit the secondary market yet. Fair. So let's call it 50,000 should be out there circulating around. Even if a decent chunk of that is collectors grading their cards that aren't selling them, you would still think some of that would be hitting the secondary market. That is not the case. When you search for Pokemon singles via Tag, there's only 785 active listings. When you look at sold listings in conjunction with that, there's only 275. So that's only 1,000 total. So 1,000 out of 50,000, if you're not even including this most recent month, just doesn't add up to me. So I would love to know where the hell these cards are going. My thought process has been for a while now that it is for a repack given the amount that they are doing. But to me, just 1 + 1 does not equal 2 there, given the amount that is being graded in conjunction with what's actually on the secondary market. That's where I'm getting this conclusion that it seems, my guess is that these are filtering to some sort of repack that maybe just hasn't come onto the scenes yet. Maybe they're building up the inventory for it. Maybe they're putting together a Pokemon tag vending machine, who knows? But just something doesn't feel right there with regards to where that number of slabs could possibly be going. Still impressive that Tag's able to throw out 30,000 cards in a month. Now, the other thing that we don't know is the breakdown between X and S. S being the 1,000-point scale and X being the more normalized 10-point scale that takes them a lot less time to grade. I am guessing most of these are going through at X, the quicker grading standards. So that's all I got for you. 3 quick hitting topics. As always, curious for your thoughts and comments down below. Will you be using these PSA specials? And where the hell are all these tag Pokemon slabs going? That's all I got. Catch you boys and girls in the next one. Peace.